What's going on, FPL managers? Welcome to the deadline stream from Fantasy Football Scout. And I'm joined, unusually, by two Aussies, both called Ryan, and they're both Man United fans. I've got my work cut out for me this morning. How are you both?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, good. And other Ryan?
Yeah, it's going to be a little confusing. We'll do our best. I'm doing very well, Ted. It's great to be here on the deadline stream. Looking forward to it.
Nice. Both these guys have YouTube channels, so go check them out. Football Chatbox is Ryan MS28, and FPL Inzaghi is other Ryan. Oh, God, I'm going to have to address you by Inzaghi and Chatbox, aren't I? I think that's probably the more sensible thing. But yeah, as a Liverpool fan, I'm definitely cut out with this Man United bias. Thank God Man United aren't involved that much this week, with plenty of double game weeks on the horizon, a big double game week, and we're all playing a chip this week. I think we've got 2 bench boosts and 1 wild card. So let's get straight into it. Before that, basically the intention for this stream is to just run through our teams for 10-15 minutes, answer some questions from the chat before the deadline, and then we will stick around for half an hour until the team news, just to chat about our general strategies for the rest of the season, have a look how we're set up for the next few weeks. But yeah, stick with us until then. But yes, let's get straight into our teams. Chatbox, will start with you, mate. You are wildcarding this week, and Reece James has the captain's armband. Talk us through it.
So mainly to do with the fact that I think Chelsea have the best fixtures out of the lot. For me, it was between either Reece James or Rudiger. I feel like Rudiger is a bit more of a boring pick because of the fact that it's maybe 2 clean sheets and that's it. Compared to Reece James, he potentially has like at least an assist or a goal in him. The other option I was initially toying with was Mount or Havertz, but both of them are minutes risk. So is Reece James, but I feel like Reece James is a bit more nailed on now that Aspilicueta is also injured. So that's the main reason I'm going with Reece James. But yeah, apart from that, I didn't really see anyone else for captaincy.
Yeah, I mean, spoiler alert, you're not in a bad place. I think Inzaghi and myself both have captain James too. So, I mean, that probably is testament to that decision. And it seems like he has a lot of upside this week. So I think it's a really decent one. But, I mean, your wildcard's not just for this week. Talk us through how you sort of plan to set up for the next few weeks, how to get through those.
So I set up the wildcard with the fact that I will bench boost in 29. And then I wanted, without having to free hit in game week 30. So I'll probably have like 10 players in game week 30. And I'm happy with 10 players in game week 30. I've gone with the double Chelsea defense because, again, probably the best set of fixtures, most nailed on defense out of everyone. I've gone with Cody for 1 Wolves defender, especially because of game week 30. And Luca Digne as well, same thing, game week 30 being the reason. In goal, I've gone with Dubravka because he also doubles in game week 29, and it helps my bench boost. Midfield, Salah. I mean, I don't think we have anything to say against Salah. Probably a good captaincy option this week as well. Willock for the double. Rafinha under new manager. We'll have to see what leads are like under the new manager. Coutinho, probably not the one I really wanted. It was between him, Havertz, and Mount. I'm just going with him right now because of more safety in minutes. And then up front, I've got Kane, who's been performing really well, and Broha to partner him, mainly because of budget.
Yeah, it's nice. No, it's good. It's actually interesting because I think Inzaghi and I both wildcarded in 26. You're wildcarding in 28. The structure of the squad isn't actually too different. The main differences are probably the Chelsea players and maybe Newcastle to a certain extent, but the only player that sticks out to be more different than what we would have even considered in 26 is Kulusevski. So, like Inzaghi, what do you rate of that pick in Ryan's team? Like, is he decent going forwards?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think what I find really interesting about this wild card and the managers who are wild carding this game week is that 4th and 5th midfield spot. So you've gone for Willock and Kulusevski, when the managers who wildcarded in game week 26, for instance, might have gone with an Arsenal midfielder like Saka, for example. And I think there's some really good options around that 4th and 5th midfield spot. So Ryan Fraser is someone that some managers are targeting this game week. Mason Mount for the double game week this week for Chelsea. And then potentially transferring him out in the following game week. So yeah, I'm interested to hear your thoughts behind Kulusevski and Willock, because whilst I think they're good options with the double game weeks to come for Tottenham, and obviously Newcastle have the double-double, Willock and Kulusevski, I think I'd probably lean more towards Ryan Fraser. But yeah, keen to hear what your thoughts are on that.
So Kulusevski is, in terms of that, because he plays in Gameweek 30, and he's looked pretty good as well, I would say, in the last few games for Spurs. Whenever I watched him, he's looked like a real threat for them. And I think he, alongside Son and Kane, are probably their nailed-down front three right now. You mentioned Saka before. I will be bringing Saka in for Gameweek 29. So I'll be getting rid of Coutinho. I know Coutinho plays in 30, but I'd rather have Saka for that game and moving forward. Willock, mainly because of the fact that he's having the double-double. And it's probably to do with him being more of a streaky player. When he gets on these patches of form, we know he's capable of scoring. Ryan Fraser, I know he has the numbers, but he did have those numbers at the start of the season as well, but he wasn't really returning anything. So I'm not really surprised by Ryan Fraser's numbers. It's just that if Saint-Maximin is back, then I'm not sure what impact that has to Ryan Fraser as well, which is why I've gone with Willock.
Yeah, I think he's got the enhanced goal threat, hasn't he, Willock? I do like him as a pick. He's a classy player and a great signing for Newcastle. They've been quite shrewd with their signings, actually, in the transfer windows. But I like the Kulusevski pick. I'm even eyeing him up next week because Spurs have the advantage of doubling next week and then playing in 30, so they're going to be popular options. And you set that up quite nicely. So yeah, pretty jealous of that wildcard team. But not jealous because you can't bench boost that bench, which is obviously the downside. But
it's a very heavy bench.
On the bright side, you've got 2 Chelsea players and like Harry Kane. I wish I had Harry Kane. I'm kind of jealous of that. But yeah, let's get straight on to Inzaghi's team. You're bench boosting this week, and it's not too dissimilar from Ryan's, to be honest. How many double game week players do you have? 8 or 9, something like that?
Yeah, I've got 9 now. I've made my 1 free transfer. I think the managers who are wildcarding in 28, I don't see their teams being too dissimilar to the teams that managers wildcarded for in game week 26. As we mentioned there, one of the key differences will be, Saka versus like a Kulusevski or a Willock, which is what Ryan's gone with. But yeah, I've got 9 double game week players, and I am bench boosting. So I've got Foster, Kilman, Cody. I've got Dan Burn there as my cheap double game week defender. When I was on the wild card, my team value, thanks to a poor start to the season, is nowhere near as good as yours, Ted. And so I had to be a little bit of a beggar and go to the discount bin. And I found Dan Burn in there for 4.4, and he doubles in 28 and doubles, of course, in 29. He's a bit of an aerial threat. We saw at Brighton that he looked quite good. So I'm just kind of rolling the dice with Dan Burn. He's got the double-double. I brought Reece James in to the team this game week. So I had Van Dijk, and I got quite fortunate with his goal in game week 26. But I've brought Reece James into the team, and I've put the captain's armband on him. And it's pretty much just what Ryan said. It's the upside there. I think my team, following a wild card, is fairly strong this game week, and with the bench that I've got there, I'm pretty confident. It could be famous last words, but I'm pretty confident of a green arrow this week. And
yes, no, I hope so.
But because my team is in such a strong position, I feel like I'm in a better position to go for a bit of a captain punt. Yeah. If, for instance, I wasn't playing a chip and I only had 4 or 5 double game week players, I'd be less inclined to captain a Reece James, and I'd probably go with someone a little bit safer. But I think I'm in a strong position. The captaincy will be split this week, so I don't think it'll hurt me too much. So I'm hoping that the upside for Reece James can send me up the rankings.
Yeah,
Salah, Son, that's pretty template in midfield. Rafinha, Coutinho, and then I've got Broja and Jimenez up front with, I think, the same bench that most people have who are bench boosting this week. It's a couple of Arsenal and a couple of Liverpool.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, El Fozzy in the chat earlier was saying, are we not worried about Reece James' expected minutes? It's probably going to be lower than, 180, which is to be expected. But if he starts both of those games, because Azpilicueta didn't train, obviously, and James seems to be, training well, if he plays those 2 games, the upside is absolutely fantastic. And, there's a reasonable chance that he plays both and then is rested in 29. That's what Neil said on the team news stream yesterday with Az. So I think it's the sensible move. And as you alluded to, captaincy is definitely not set on one particular player this week. So you may as well go for someone who has huge upside. So,
yeah, exactly.
I'm in the same boat as you. But yeah, going back to your Dan Burn pick and the team value thing, I think team value is massively overhyped. Yes, on paper you can get that perceived better player, but there's always better, cheaper not better, but always there's reasonable, cheaper options that you can go for instead. Like Dan Burn, Newcastle's defence is absolutely fantastic at the moment. They've only conceded 4 goals in the last 7 matches, keeping those goals conceded down really low. So I think you've got a really good chance for a clean sheet with Dan Burn this week. And
I think so. He kind of covers the Dubravka clean sheet a little bit as well, right? I didn't have the funds again to go with Dubravka as my second goalkeeper, so I had to go with Foster. But then I thought I could kind of cover that Newcastle clean sheet if it does arrive with Dan Burn and hopefully get an attacking return as well from him.
Yeah, I mean he's got that height from the threat from set pieces, so you never know. But yeah, I think it's a really decent team, and that bench is basically that I think a lot of people are going to be playing those players this week if they're not bench boosting. So that effective ownership just it means you get an additional player to play this week, even though people have the Arsenal and Liverpool players already in their starting lineup. So I would be very surprised if you didn't get a green arrow. I would be very upset myself because my team is not too dissimilar from yours if we somehow managed to avoid a green arrow, so especially on a bench boost. So yeah, Ryan, what do you think of Inzaghi's team? Are you slightly envious of the bench boost? How do you think your bench boost in 29 will compare to Inzaghi's?
Well, I'll say safely, my bench boost is nowhere close to Inzaghi's definitely. So I'm definitely a bit, because that's like a 20-point bench right there. Mine would probably have Luca Digne, Broha, Dubravka, and I think it was another single game week player, probably Cody, I think, which isn't very appealing. But at the same time, I'm for me, the bench boost is probably not one of the most stronger chips out of the game. And based on my strategy, I'd like to use the free hits when the doubles get announced in 33 and 36. So
you've got
I feel
both free hits
I
left?
have both free hits. Yeah.
Oh,
that's
wow.
Nice. That's strong.
Yeah. What a position to be in.
Yeah, which is why I'm happy with just playing the bench boost in 29 and getting rid of it. But I think it's a pretty good team. And you mentioned Forster as well. I think Forster isn't a bad pick for this week. Watford have improved defensively. I think I mentioned this to Ted last week as well, where Watford have improved defensively. And he could potentially keep 1 clean sheet maybe against Wolves. I won't expect a clean sheet against Arsenal, but I would expect a few save points. So you probably won't miss out too much as well, I think. So it's a pretty good team. The only worry, I guess, is we'll have to see whether Wolves, last few games, they haven't been keeping clean sheets. So we'll see whether they improve in the next few games.
The Watford fixture is the one I would look at to lock in that Wolves clean sheet. I think it's probably the likely one, especially now Ismail Assar has been confirmed out for the next couple of weeks, I think, from Watford. So that really does put the nail in the coffin. That's definitely going to come back to bite me now. Having said all that, but I think you've got to be reasonably confident for a Wolves clean sheet against Watford. Right, we've got 5 minutes until the deadline. Let's quickly race through my team. It's not actually too dissimilar to yours. Inzaghi's literally the 3 differences are Dubravka, Saiss, I think, and what was the other one? Digne, I think. Yeah, because you have Dan Burn, Kilman, and Foster. Yeah, it's literally those 3 players. So it really not very different at all. It's funny, we all went for exactly the same captaincy and vice captaincy on Rafinha. Yeah. The same combination. So clearly pretty aligned there. But yeah, the bench is exactly the same. Having Trent on the bench and bench boosting is really nice. really nice. Like, arguable, you could put Breuer there with his double game week fixtures. Like, if you wanted to play it, so you had your weakest players on the bench. But I think it's probably 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So, yeah, very happy with this. Hopefully, plenty of green arrow. I'm hoping for a little bit more than you, Inzaghi. You know, a lot of green arrow. That's what I want. This is my bench boost week. But yeah, the move, I actually moved Robertson to James, and I think it was probably a little bit of a harder move than Van Dijk to James, sorry. Because obviously these Liverpool guys double in 29, don't they? So it's really difficult to remove a double game week player in the future because you're just literally just coping with the present. But I think captaining the player that you're bringing in probably just swayed it for me. And I think either Inzaghi, like you and I, can either take a hit next week to bring a Robertson back in for that double, or we stay strong and use that transfer to strengthen the team for 30 to bring back in the likes of Leicester players, or enhance on the Spurs assets and something like that to get through 30. Presumably you are not free hitting in 30, am I right?
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah. So to get 10 or 11 players out for 30 is probably the priority over, you know, getting millions of double game week players next week. Although, you know, it is a balancing act. So
I wanted to just quickly ask you about that, Ted. Like you mentioned, selling Robbo to a Chelsea defender. I think a few people in the chat might be thinking about getting on the Chelsea train. There might be a bit of FOMO out there.
Yeah.
Is it as simple as saying, you've got Van Dijk, you've got Robbo, just go for the upside with Chelsea this week? Or is it a bit more nuanced than that, and maybe you need to rethink it?
I've been stressing about that exact decision for the last 2 or 3 days, because it's not an easy decision. It very much depends on how you're set up for the next few weeks, whether you think, you know, if you roll the transfer this week and you have 2 free transfers next week, and, you know, potentially even 2 free transfers in 30, if you only use 1 next week, you're in a very powerful position to boost those weeks rather than just capitalize on these Chelsea players. It's, you know, James isn't sure to start both games. It's a risk. Rudiger's probably the more sensible one, but he hasn't got that attacking upside. So if you want to keep Van Dijk or Robertson for next week, you're going to be really happy. So I think it's really, really difficult decision. I think, as I said earlier, the thing that swayed me was that I'm captaining James. That's the double upside for that move. So I think if James hauls this week and you've got all of his points for making that move, you can use the points that you've gained in that move to sort of take hits further down the line, and it probably is more sensible. Are you sort of in what's the word? Do you agree, basically?
Yeah. I do. Yeah, I think for me, I happen to have to put myself in your position where you own Robbo and you have to consider whether it's viable to sell him this game week for a Chelsea defender. I only had Van Dijk, and so for me, it was a fairly straightforward decision. But I think the upside is there with Reece James and with Rudiger. I'd be happy to sell Robbo for either of those Chelsea defenders if you were going to put the captain's armband on them. I think that's a big decision. And we know that beyond game week 30, we will want Chelsea defenders in our team. So it's not just a short-term pick. I think it's got long-term credibility as well. And like you say, if you're going to put the captain's armband on either of those Chelsea defenders, with the fixture they've got, Burnley away, Norwich away, I think clean sheets are coming.
It's got to be the most obvious clean sheets ever. Chelsea are very, very defensive, and Burnley and Norwich are very, very not attacking. Let's just say that. So, Ryan, chatbox, are you thinking about moving to Liverpool, a treble up in 29? Is that even crossed your mind, or are you going to stay strong and just stay with the 2 of them?
No, I'll just stay with the 2 in Trent and Salah. The reason being, so I could have done a move to Robbo if I wanted to in 29, but then I would be having about 9 players in 30. And then because of that main reason, I've decided to go just get Saka, and I'll probably move one of the Chelsea defenders to maybe a Doherty, who could be a pick if assuming he plays this game week and looks like he's to be nailed. And then I'll probably go Doherty, or I'll probably go Romero instead.
I really like the Doherty pick. He's been plenty of my tinkers, but a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he's not nailed" and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing.
like Ben Davis or whoever, Romero, just
Yeah.
seems a little bit boring, like compared to Doherty's.
Yeah.
Like he's just shown like this upside. He starts scoring goals again, like he did at
Yeah.
Wolves.
Yeah, that's the thing. I prefer Doherty as a pick, but I saw like Sam, she mentioned yesterday that if Spurs need to defend, then Doherty is probably not the one. But if they need to attack, then he's a really good pick. So it depends on who they. Obviously, Game Week 29 is a tough fixture for Spurs, but they also play Game Week 30, which is kind of like a plus sign. So that's the main reason. It's 3 games versus 2 games. I'd rather go with the option.
Yeah. If you're on a free hit, like Ryan, you mentioned you've still got 2 free hits.
Yeah.
You're looking at playing them in 33 and 36. We know that Spurs are likely to double in either 33 or 36. That could be the time that you go for a Doherty or one of these attacking wing backs and just roll the dice, knowing that, if they don't turn up, they're not in your team permanently. It's just a free hit.
Yeah, that's also true.
So since we'll be talking, deadline has passed. Happy Gameweek28 to you both. And yeah, if you guys in the chat don't go anywhere, we're sticking around for the next half an hour and we will come to you with the team news from Leicester and Leeds in half an hour's time. But in the meantime, we're going to be talking about our teams, what our strategy is for the next few weeks. If you've got any questions about Game Week 29, if you already want to think ahead to that, then pop them in the chat and we'll try and do our best to answer them. But yes, guys, how are you feeling? Are you feeling confident?
Yeah, I just want to jump in. I'm feeling confident because I don't know if you guys experience this, but when deadline approaches, you get all your friends sending you their teams and their questions, and it's just the state of panic is so funny. And a good friend of mine, he's Apple Crumbled. He has taken a -4 to get rid of Son to bring in Reece James, and he's planning to go from Son to Kane, just doing a bit of a hokey pokey type of move there. But yeah, you love seeing these hits fly around, don't you, when deadline starts to kick in and you look at everyone's team on Twitter and you start panicking.
Yeah, especially when you haven't taken a hit yourself. That's an instant green arrow from the outset, so it's nice to see. But yeah, I don't blame him, to be honest. I did have a tinker and be like, can I get Havertz and James in for Son and Robertson, and then move to like Spurs next week with Kane and Kulusevski. That did cross my mind, but it was just like, it's a bridge too far. It was too much commitment.
That's another difference between wildcard 26 and wildcard 28. Ryan, you've gone with Harry Kane. You've gone the Kane route, whereas I think most wildcarders in 26 would have gone, or maybe not most, but some wildcarders in 26 went Son. And now it feels like the tide has shifted towards Kane. Are you obviously happy with the Kane pick over Son?
So I had Son before I wildcarded. And if I didn't wildcard, I would have kept Son. I don't think there's too much of a difference between the two. Like if you look at the expected points over the next 5 game weeks, they're both very close. Obviously, I know Kane in the last few weeks has looked much better. But like, I wouldn't be surprised if we, in 5 game weeks time, if they've both reached very similar points. It's just a matter of where you use the funds for like midfield. Like, can you bring other midfielders into play? Possibly, because like we know Leicester are going to have a few double game weeks upcoming. There's the likes of Maddison, Tielemans who will start entering conversations as well. But then if you kept Son, you could probably get Vardy for game week 30, which is a really good pick. But if you had Kane, then you probably can't do that because of the funds. So I think there are upsides to both. But if you just look at the two in general, I don't think there's much of a difference in the long run.
I've just put a little poll in the chat just asking which chip everyone's played this week, because presumably they're pretty prevalent out there. I'm not sure the triple captain is probably that much, but lots of wild cards, lots of free hits, lots of bench boosts, I imagine. But I guess if you were going to triple captain someone, would it be too far to go someone like Reece James? Who do you think like the most obvious triple captain option is out there?
Yeah,
I'll let you take this one, chatbox.
So I had a question in my stream with regards to someone was asking, should I triple captain Rafinha? And I instantly went, no, because you rather triple captain Salah next week if you wanted to, than maybe triple captain someone this week. Because like the whole reason a lot of us have these different captaincy options is because there's no standout from this lot. And obviously, while it might, even if we don't get a captaincy return, we might not see a big red arrow, but I would rather use a triple captain on someone I know who's nailed and on really good form as well. And right now it's probably only Salah who I'm more comfortable giving the armband in terms of triple captaincy too. But you could also make a case for Kane as well, or Son, depending on the fixtures. But yeah, not this week, definitely.
Chatbox, did you triple captain Salah in 26?
Yes, I did.
Okay, very, very jealous of that, to be honest. It was a calculated risk. But yeah, the results of the poll so far, like hardly anyone's triple captaining expectedly. I think, Inzaghi, you're going to triple captain Salah next week with me?
With you? It's
with me.
It's almost like you're begging me to do so. Will you come to the shops with me? Yeah, I am planning on triple captaining Salah next week. And look, when it comes to triple captain, I was thinking about this game week. Would I feel comfortable triple captaining Reece James? No, I would rather triple captain Rudiger over Reece James, but I'm captaining Reece James over Rudiger. I just think it's because triple captain is, you get it once a season. It's this precious chip and you want to make the most of it. You want to play it for someone that you can trust. Who's the player that we can trust more than anyone in FPL? And it's Mo Salah. He's got a double game week. I know it's against Brighton. And he's got Arsenal away. I think both fixtures are away next game week. So not the Norwich and Leeds at home of game week 26, but it's still Mo Salah in a double game week playing for a Liverpool team that's chasing the Premier League title. So yeah, I'm very likely to play my triple captain next week, and you are as well, Ted.
Yeah, I am. I mean, wildcarding in 26, when we had to figure it all out in basically one evening, like trying to form a plan for the next few weeks. Triple captain was the fact that we could triple captain Mo in 29 was a massive thing. I think if we didn't have that option, wildcarding 26 would be a much less appealing play. So yeah, I mean, you said, it's Mo Salah and he's kind of fixture proof to a certain extent. Liverpool are just so attacking regardless. But yeah, you'd expect Brighton and Arsenal to put up a stiffer defence than Leeds and who was the other one they played? Was it Norwich? Yeah. I mean, Salah, 2 of his returns were penalties, and that could easily happen against Brighton and Arsenal. And he's just so attacking. Anything could happen, and he's after that golden boot, isn't he? So I think it's fine even if he gets like 15 points, which is probably the expected amount. I think that's absolutely fine. We've lost out about 13 points, something like that, but we've also managed to set up our team and bench boost this week. So silver linings, and I think it probably works itself out more or less.
Yeah.
But yes, so how many players do you guys currently have in your plans for game week 30? Because that's going to be quite a difficult game week to get through. Only 4 fixtures. And I think if you can get 8 or 9 players, you're probably happy. Chatbox, how many have you got?
I will be on 10.
10, that's
and
really
I'm happy
decent.
with 10. Yeah.
Would you stretch to 11?
No, because on the bench I'll have Salah, probably Reece James, Broha, and there was another player, Trent. So I don't really want to get rid of James, Salah, or Trent. I can't really find anyone else to get Broha in for. I could probably go Huang, but I'm not really for a hit. I'll have to do a hit as well to bring in a full 11. So I'm not really convinced by that. So I'm happy with just 10.
It's a really interesting one because we have exactly the same thoughts. I was going, why? It's really annoying that Broya doesn't play in that game week because the options, the equivalent options for that price bracket there's no forward options in the game right now. It seems there's just none. So moving from Broya to another player that plays in game week 30 is practically impossible. So in order to get 11 players, I am actually considering selling Salah for, I don't know, someone like Maddison, and then bringing him back in for Coutinho in game week 31, where Coutinho and Villa have a really poor run of fixtures. So it is a bit of a hokey-cokey. Not 100% sure it's worth 2 transfers to transfer out a player. But you're getting 2 extra players, basically. Sorry, you're getting 1 extra player, but you're managing the 2 players that you have optimally. So it's not the worst idea, but I'm not 100% sure whether it's it's the best use of the 2 transfers. But you never know. Having 11 players in 30 could be a bit of an upside. And Leicester are looking, I think they're going to be popular options. Even Vardy could be a better option than Maddison, going forward. Have you guys considered Vardy at all? Inzaghi, about you, mate?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that cameo against Burnley, it was a great reminder of his capabilities as an FPL asset. And he really turned the game. I was watching that as a Ben Mee owner. And when Ben Mee went off, I actually wanted Leicester to score because I know a lot of people had Tarkowski or Roberts, and the effective ownership of the Burnley clean sheet was quite high. So when Jamie Vardy came on and he scored that goal in, I think he got an assist as well. Yeah, a great reminder of what he can do. And Chatbox mentioned just before about, and I think you might have as well, Ted, talking about the managers who go for Kane. It kind of means that they can't get Jamie Vardy as well, because the funds, tied up in guys like Salah and Trent, whatever else. So for me, I'm happy with Son. Would I like Kane? Definitely. But I'm eyeing up Jamie Vardy as my game week 30 captain. Playing against Brentford, I think is a great fixture. So yeah, I'm looking to bring Vardy in for game week 30, and I wouldn't even be opposed to bringing him in for Raul Jimenez. I know that obviously he plays in game week 30, but if I'm happy to put the armband on Vardy in game week 30, and the fixtures beyond that for Leicester are quite nice. I know they've got Newcastle, and they've also got Crystal Palace in the next few fixtures. So yeah, I think Jamie Vardy is a great pick for 30 and also for beyond.
Yeah, I think the three teams that with the strategy that we're doing, with the setting ourselves up for 30, not free hitting, means that our teams are going to be full of players like Arsenal and Spurs and potentially Leicester that also have the capacity to double in 33. I think they're going to play against each other, and Leicester have got so many backlogged fixtures that they're almost certainly going to double in 33. So setting up your team with those three teams doesn't seem like such a bad option. I think it's probably the solution. It's interesting that Liverpool and City play each other in 32. Does that sort of put you off by getting City players back as quickly as possible after 30, or are you just happy to wait until after game week 33, which is going to be a big double and blank?
Yeah, the prediction will be, right, if City get through the quarterfinal of the FA Cup or even the semi-final, then they'll very likely blank on the weekend of 33, but play during the midweek. I was trying to catch up with the Planet FPL podcast earlier today, but just ran out of time. But that's a really helpful explanation of the City fixtures. Right now, I don't have a clear picture of the lay of the land for 31 through to 37. But I do know that City are very likely to have fewer fixtures, fewer doubles, less doubles than the other teams like Leicester, for example. So am I concerned with having no City players in my team right now? Not really. Do I have a plan to get any City players back before 33? I don't think so, unless they're going to double. And as things stand, I don't believe they are.
Yeah, it seems like it's a blank, and then it's a tough fixture, and a blank, then an easy fixture, and then another blank. So it seems like their doubles are going to come at the end of the season, maybe in 36. So saving your free hits or whatever, however you're going to cope with 36 for then seems like the best option. But going without the likes of Cancelo is pretty scary. But if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, it's probably okay if you prioritise other players. Yeah, Chatbox, do you feel the same sort of thing, or are you prioritising like form and ability of player over necessarily the schedule?
So that City run up in terms of until like 32 is why I was like, okay, I can get rid of Cancelo a bit more easily, because if I had Cancelo, I probably won't start him this week because I have double game week players instead of him. Obviously 29 is a good fixture, but 30 he blanks. 31 Burnley, good fixture, but then 32, like you mentioned, Liverpool. And then if I was going to free hit in 33, I can probably bring him in if I wanted to, assuming they doubled or blank, depending on the situation. So then the earliest I think I'll bring him is like 34. And let's say if I wanted a City cover before that, now we've got news with regards to Ruben Dias out for like 4 to 6 weeks, which kind of locks Laporte as another like strong option, a much more cheaper option as well. If we wanted that City cover, we can do that in 31. So I don't think there's a huge upside in getting rid of Cancelo and being able to bring in like these double game week defenders that we're bringing in, like James, Robertson. Like it gives more flexibility for at least the short term. And then in the latter stage, I can bring Cancelo back. By then his price would have also probably fallen a bit. And then I can bring him back for not too much compared to what I sold him for.
Yeah, it's really interesting that the schedule has such a massive impact on our decisions. I mean, you could say the same thing about Liverpool to a certain extent. If they didn't double in 29, I'm not sure many people will be focusing on tripling up, because they blank in 30, they play Watford in 31. That's an accessible fixture. I think I'd be worried about. But then Man City in 32 and a likely blank in 33. I'm very tempted not to go back to Robertson next week for that double, which sounds scary. But if we can sort of boost the rest of our squads, bring in Leicester players and maybe more Spurs players, then it probably long-term seems like the more logical move. But it sounds scary, right, guys? How do I go without Robertson in a double game week?
Yeah, it does sound scary. And I was quite scared to lose Bowen on my Game Week 26 wild card. But I think what's important, we always preach that it's important to jump on the players at the right time, but it's equally important to jump off players at the right time. And I think the managers who have sold Bowen so far, it's looked like the right move. Cancelo hasn't punished us yet. We were able to free hit him in last game week for his 9 points. So it looks as though we've jumped off these players at the right time. Things could change, but so far, so good.
Yeah, and you've got to have that element of luck about you, because Bowen could have definitely got some points.
Yeah.
Did you watch Well, I can't remember what the game was, but when we wildcarded in 26 and he played that week, and he could have hauled. He could have hauled.
But the same could have been told for Cancelo as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So many shots in that game.
Yes. Against Spurs,
Goodness me.
Yeah, great point.
Yeah, so lots to think about, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm constantly trying to plan my FPL team, and it's just awful. It takes up all of my time.
Yeah. I feel like it's been more enjoyable though recently. I've enjoyed having a clearer picture of the doubles and blanks from 25 to game week 30. I wasn't really enjoying it with all the postponements, and in game week 16, I found myself ranked at 1.1 million. So I was having a torrid time of things. But once the kind of the schedule, as you've alluded to, Ted, clears up, it just enables us to plan, and it enables us to execute a plan. I think that's what I'm looking forward to about these few game weeks and the ones to come after game week 30.
You feel like you've got ahead of the rest, don't you? Because you can gain that advantage, you can gain that material advantage by actually having something concrete that you know will bring you green arrows, rather than going, oh, if I pick that player over that player, is that going to hurt me? And it's so much more uncertain about whether it's going to propel you up the ranking. So I completely get it. And there's an element of security about it that's comforting, for sure. But I mean, Ryan, chatbox, you've been like conversely up to like 2,000 in the rankings and have sort of come down a bit. Now we've got to try and turn that around and get you back up again. And presumably your chip strategy is going to do that, because I think regardless of what strategy we pick, as long as it's logical, it's going to do well, right?
Yeah, I hope to get back into the top 10K. Like Inzaghi mentioned, the moment all these games got cancelled and everything, then it became really hard to plan. And that's when I started to fall from it went from 2K to fixtures got cancelled. I had players in my team who weren't playing, and it just fell. And ever since then, I haven't been able to get back into that top 10K. I've got close and then met a red arrow. But now I'm hoping I've got 2 free hits, wildcard happening now, bench boost in 29. I'm hoping that will see to some green arrows, and I'll be able to maximize on that and hopefully get back into that top 10K. That's the aim. Will it happen? Will it not? We'll have to see.
Oh, I'm sure it will. You're in a good position. I think, with both free hits in hand as well. I mean, you're probably even more certain than I feel confident getting top 10K, but you should be top 5K, I'd say, with all of that stuff left to play. I was just checking on Twitter to see whether we have any early team news, but I can't see anything yet. So we're going to have to be patient, wait another 10 minutes. Unbelievable.
Well, Sam Martin, I'm not sure if you follow Sam Martin on Twitter, the Leicester City correspondent, I think he'd like to be called. The Leicester team news seems to break almost a week before their fixtures take place. He has put the team out for the game against Leeds. It's not confirmed, of course, but it's little surprise. I think we could probably pick that Leicester team ourselves. Amati is a player who keeps popping up. He keeps on popping up for Leicester. At 3.8, I believe he still is. He is tempting.
I mean, Leicester have had their such terrible defensive injury problems all season, and Amati at 3.8 just seems like too good to be true. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that might be making the most of that price, especially in game week 30, to enable other moves thereafter. So is Amati in your plans as this cheap enabler?
Well, I have to say, Johnny Evans, of course, is probably their best defender. And once he gets back into that team, returns to full fitness, I think he could threaten Amani's position in that team. I would love James Justin to be fit again. He would be my defender of choice from Leicester. But, he just returned from a long-term injury and then he got injured again. Right now, my two favourite Leicester assets would be Maddison and Vardy. And I think that their price is fairly generous as well. It's not too difficult to get on a James Maddison if you're going from a Bowen or even a Saka or whoever you might have in midfield in that kind of mid-tier price. But yeah, the defenders from Leicester, they don't keep too many clean sheets. They have improved though recently. Chatbox, are you tempted by any Leicester defenders?
At the moment, no. Like you mentioned, right? James Justin would have been the ideal one. We know what his capabilities were based on last season before he got injured. Apart from him, I don't really look at any Leicester defenders and go, I really want you in my team. I'd rather have their midfield and strikers options, like you mentioned. Because I feel like if you look at the Leicester defense and in their price point, you probably find better alternatives elsewhere.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm like, I'd rather go somewhere else than actually get a Leicester defender. And also, if you think about it, right, we're most likely going to be playing a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3 formation. Most of the times, those three defenders will be very premium, like Cancelo, Trent, Rich James, Rudiger. So we're never going to really play a Leicester defender unless it's your fifth defender who's probably like Amati, and he's there just because you want to be able to enable other players.
I saw Rob at FPL Hall was on my stream last Monday, and he was picking Schmeichel in his wild card, and I was like, yeah, Leicester's defense is just awful. It's been awful all season, but I kind of can see the logic in the Schmeichel move, especially when you need a goalkeeper for 30 if it's not Ramsdale, and you can, with all of this, potential double game weeks for Leicester, this backlog, you can preempt. You know that they're going to get double game weeks, and you know that they've got good fixtures after 30 or from 30. So it's not a bad idea to start bringing these guys in, and I think it's going to be a popular move. I think Vardy and Maddison, as Inzaghi said earlier, obvious, and those guys with Kane. I mean, I would love Kane, but as you said, they probably can't move to a Vardy. So, I think Son is maybe, in terms of squad structure and enablement, I think it's probably the right move. But from a rational choice, I would always choose Kane. I think he's in red hot form at the moment, just absolutely involved in everything. So there are positives and negatives to having Son, but you can't be upset about having him over Kane. And I've got to remind myself of that, basically.
Yeah, it's the sacrifices that we make, right? You can't have them all. It's not Pokemon. You can't catch them all. And so you have to limit yourself and make sacrifices in and as in Chatbox, I think you hit the nail on the head. Son and Kane, their expected points for the next 5 or 6 game weeks basically comes out the same. You could probably argue that there's recent form might suggest that Kane will outscore Son, and he's on penalties and whatever else. But if they're that close, what does going Son and saving that money allow you to do versus going Kane? There are lots of midfielders, that you could pick. You don't having Son in your team does take up a precious midfielder spot, and we're scratching around trying to find a forward to stick in. And so Kane solves that problem, if you like. But for my team structure, I just like having Son, saving that money, being flexible enough to go to Vardy for the amount of doubles that they've got to come, and then to use my transfers elsewhere instead of having those funds tied up in Kane.
Exactly, and these are the decisions that we need to make in the next few weeks. And I don't know about you guys, but planning the next few weeks with transfers, it's been really, really difficult because you want Robertson back in next week, but if you do that, you're blocking out a couple million funds that you could use to get Vardy upgrade from Jimenez or Lacazette or whoever you want to upgrade from. So prioritising all of these moves in subsequent weeks, really difficult. You just kind of have to ignore certain players, and that's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
So who are the top 3 players that you both are eyeing up for future, like the rest of the season, like Spurs players, Leicester players, Arsenal players, that will help you get through this schedule? Is it along the lines of what we've been discussing, like Vardy, Maddison, or is there someone else you're thinking about? Chatbox, start with you, mate.
I think Vardy is a good shout. Maddison also. The only issue I need to see with regards to Maddison's injury, obviously he hasn't been playing. I think he got injured again, or he has a back injury. So that kind of needs to be monitored. Because if that's not the case, then Vardy is like the standout pick. And if I needed to get Vardy, then I'll have to like downgrade Kane, bring Vardy in, and then bring Son back in. That's most likely what's going to happen if I need Vardy and if I see Vardy on that hot streak. Because we know Vardy also, once he hits like a purple patch, he like continues that purple patch for a long time. So like he's like Kane basically. You have to get on that purple patch just as soon as they get into it, like, and then keep them. Obviously, we've spoken about the backlog of fixtures for Leicester, and obviously they have Europa League. But then I've been told that Dhaka plays in the Europa League, so there is chances that Vardy gets rested during the Europa League, plays in the Premier League, and it's about time before Leicester start actually trying to win a few games. Otherwise, there'll be like no Europe next season.
I forgot you were a smug Kane owner. I forgot that. So yeah.
Only
Just
recently.
ignore what he has to say.
To be honest, I had Kane before, and oh my god, he didn't deliver anything. I was really frustrated by him. And then I switched to Ronaldo, who didn't do anything as well. So
you'll be fine. Double game week 29, you'll be absolutely laughing. I'll be really envious of Kane owners then. So Inzaghi, like, sorry mate, Inzaghi, like, what any sort of peculiar players or other players that you're considering as priorities for the next few weeks to get you through the schedule?
Yeah, I think Arsenal, in terms of, I kind of think firstly with teams and then drill down into the players. So for me, the teams that I want to target, I'm not free hitting in game week 30. So I don't think you need to have a full 15 for game week 30 if you're not free hitting. I think 10 or 11 is perfectly fine. Even 9 if you've got the main captain option that game week. But because I'm not free hitting in game week 30, I'm looking at Spurs, Arsenal, Wolves, Leeds, and Aston Villa. These are all teams who double in either 28 and 29, and then they play in game week 30. So from Wolves, you've got the usual suspects, Jose Sarr, although I'm not making a goalkeeper transfer, but I think if you've got Jose Sarr, that's a good goalkeeper to have. Roman Saiss stands out to me as probably the best Wolves defender. I'm jealous that you've got him, Ted. I've got Cody and Kilman. I think they're both good options. Jimenez is okay, but Wolves don't score heaps of goals. He's not a priority transfer out, but I wouldn't be, if I was wildcarding this week, I'd probably go without Jimenez. From Leeds, it's Rafinha, and that's about it. Aston Villa, Ramsey is a great enabler if you're looking to save some money. Coutinho has the upside. Luca Dean has burnt me every single time I've brought him into my team, so it's hard to trust him. But again, if you want to go for an Aston Villa, he's probably got the most upside. And then from Spurs, we know that it's Son, Kane, potentially Kulusevski. And then from Arsenal, you've got Tierney, Ramsdale, Saka, Martinelli, Lacazette, lots of good options. But I guess the point that I want to make beyond players and individual players, I'm more concerned about price points in my team and structure moving forward. So we've mentioned Jamie Vardy, for instance. I like having Lacazette or Jimenez in my team. It is a little bit of a jump to go to Vardy, but it's not too much. It's a Coutinho to Ramsey and a Jimenez to Vardy. It's not that far away. I like having Son in my team because if I wanted to go for a Bruno Fernandes, for example, then I can easily make that switch. I like having a bunch of mid-priced midfielders. So we've already spoken about James Maddison. If I wanted to move off a Coutinho or a James Ward-Prowse or whoever it might be, I can easily make that switch. So those are the players, but I'm also concentrating on price points in my team to give me that flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Really fair points. And I think like the Aston Villa guys, because they have terrible fixtures from 31, they're probably going to be the ones that we move away from in the first instance. But if you have the likes of Ramsey, you don't need to prioritise that move away because he's an enabler. But yeah, we'll come back to that point in a minute, but it's half past. So there'll be team news around, guys.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first? Chatbox, do you have the Leeds one?
Yes, I do. So it's Meslier, Alien, Junior Firpo, Koch, Strike, Klitsch, Harrison, Dallas, Rafinha, James, and Rodrigo in the starting 11. Bamford on the bench. We're talking about another striker option. Could be someone to watch.
Nice.
Yeah. What formation? What formation is that, do you think? Because I'm really keen to see what they play on Jesse March.
I would assume it's a back three, right? Firpo, Koch. Oh, it's not easy to say because Dallas can play anywhere as well. Yeah.
Sometimes if you Google the fixture, different websites try and predict the formation, and they can get it so wrong based on the lineup.
I think from what you read out, it sounds like a 4-2-3-1 to me, or a 4-1-4-1 or something like that. Yeah. So Sky have got it as a 4-1-4-1 with Click as the CDM, and then Rafinha, Dallas, Rodrigo, and Harrison across the middle. Dan James as striker. I think that probably makes sense, to be honest.
But they have Rodrigo as well. Is he a striker as well? Or?
No, I think Rodri probably likes to play 10, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well, he's better as a 10, I think, in my opinion. But I don't know. Dallas could be playing centre defensive midfielder, and it could be a 4-2-3-1. So it could be any of those. It could be a 4-1-4-1, it could be a 4-2-3-1, or a 4-1-3-2. But yeah, we're ignoring Leicester. Inzaghi, what are the news from the Leicester camp?
Yeah, massive news from the Leicester camp. They're actually starting Kasper Schmeichel in goals. Can you believe it? They've got Chowdhury, Amati, Soyuncu, and Luke Thomas in defence. Dewsbury Hall, Tielemans, Ndidi, Albrighton in midfield, and then they've got Barnes and Vardy up front. So it looks like it could be like a 4-4-2 perhaps, or maybe Vardy's playing up front on his own with a few midfielders in behind, Albrighton on one wing, Barnes on the other.
It's pretty encouraging for Vardy early adopters. I think I can just foresee he's going to go on a run now. I can just see it, and he's, as you sort of alluded to earlier, he's a purple patch player. You know, he's gonna get goals. I wouldn't be surprised if he got one today. But yeah, Maddison misses out again.
Yes.
Which is annoying because he needs to sort out these injury niggles before we start deciding on him from game week 30. But yeah, if he can, that'd be great. But yes, I expect goals in this match, guys. I don't know about you.
Yeah, for sure. Vestergaard on the bench. I mean, that signing has not worked out for Leicester.
No.
Amati gets the start. That's something to keep an eye on. If he continues to start and play well, like we've mentioned, that 3.8 might find his way into my team.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's ahead of Vestergaard.
What
was the first impressions about Vestergaard that he wasn't up to scratch, that Rodgers was saying? I can't remember. I might have been paraphrasing that. But clearly the intention is to play Amati over that. And he's at 3.8 from FPL perspective. Actually too good to turn down. So yeah, what are your predictions for this game, scoreline wise? Chatbox, start with you, mate.
I'm gonna go 2-1 to Leicester with Vardy getting a goal.
That's quite conservative, I think.
Yeah, I'm just assuming like it's the first game, right, for Jesse Marsch, and like he probably won't want to be too attacking. Might want to sort out that defense. That's what I'm assuming, but then we'll have to see.
Do you reckon he's had enough time to influence the style?
Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, it would be a miracle if he has. I mean, don't underestimate the psychology and the mentality of the players and how much that has. True. Yeah, so for sure, like it could have made an immediate difference. But in terms of their defensive vulnerabilities, not 100% sure. Yeah. What about you, Inzaghi? What's your scoreline prediction?
Yeah, I was just checking to see the score that I predicted for the Fantasy Football Scout community page, because I am in a competitive tipping competition over there. And I did say earlier in the week, I thought Leicester would win 2-1. So it seems as though I agree with you, Chatbox. I might change that prediction, though, and say I think it'll be 2-2. I think there'll be goals in this game.
Nice. Both
What about
defensively
you,
vulnerable
Ted?
teams. Yeah, I was going to go for like a 3-2 or a 2-all, so I'm kind of agreed with that. I think I would hope that Rafinha gets on the score sheet. That's all we really care about in terms of FPL. I think he's quite prevalent in a lot of teams. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I hope he stays on penalties. I wouldn't, although that's probably only an issue once Bamford is back on the pitch. So yeah, you never know.
I wonder if Bamford starts today. I mean, not starts, gets a few minutes today. So that'll be interesting as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to monitor his progress back from injury, because we know what an excellent FPL asset he was last season. I wonder whether it's too late for him to be a legitimate FPL asset the rest of the season. He might take a bit of time to get back to match sharpness, but yeah, we've got so few strikers at the moment. Might be worth to even preempt it. Yeah, a lot of people in the chat agreeing with Chatbox and Inzaghi 2-1 for Leicester. There's Adil saying 3-2 for Leeds. So yeah, 3-2. I think it'd go 3-2 to either side, to be honest. Like, that would be the side I'd plump for. But yeah, lots of goals nonetheless. So hopefully none of us have defenders from Leicester or Leeds.
Yeah,
you've got to be pretty brave.
You'd be in a bit of trouble if you've held on. I mean, Ayling and Dallas, what has happened to them this season?
Yeah, Dallas was such a beast. I guess he changed position in FPL, didn't he? Because he was a defender last year, and what a defender! But interestingly, he's been moved to a midfielder this year and has stopped scoring. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
who knows? But yeah, I think Ayling's doing better than him this year, which was always a thing. I remember last season, everyone was going, "Oh yeah, Ayling's got better stats than Dallas. We'll just go Ayling." He never transpired. So unfortunate.
I love how each season throws up these comparisons. We had Dennis and King this season, right? We had Grass versus Excel FC, and next season I'm sure we'll have some more where, you know, you've got these two players vying for our pick, and some managers will back up stats and some managers will go with the eye test. And Ayling and Dallas seem to be one of those last season.
Exactly. I'm sure we'll have many more comparisons like that to go, but it's just the nature of FPL. Stats versus eye test. Yeah, on that note, I think we will leave it there, chaps. Thank you very much for joining me, both of you, and green arrows to you both. Hopefully, with all of the wild cards and the bench boosting going on, a lot of rank gain to be had. So yes, also thanks to everyone who joined us in the chat. Best of luck, Gameweek28. It's been a pleasure. And enjoy the football.
Thanks, Ted. Good luck, everyone.
See you guys. See ya.